Okay, so welcome to 8.5 problems involving more than one right angle triangle. So yes, we are still continuing with word problems, which means that we are going to follow the same steps where you draw a diagram, make sure it's labeled, and have let statements, show your work, and provide an answer statement. And we are using the primary trig ratio, so, ka, toa. Okay, so, and we're going to draw right angles. So most of these questions, you're going to need a horizontal, which I can't lie is going to be difficult for me to draw a nice straight line on this work here, this iPad. So if you have a ruler, then draw a better triangle than me. Okay, so basically you already know about SOHCAHTOA. We're just going to get into the examples. So Nadia, whose eyes are 1.65 meters off the ground, is standing on a cliff 130 meters above the water. I'm going to save that sentence for just a second, okay? And then it says Nadia looks down, so at her eyes, the angle of 57 from the horizontal to see Colton about to be eaten by sharks. Okay, so let's draw a horizontal. Maybe I can get a straight line here. Oh, here we go. No. Okay, that's no good. All right, so I'm just going to draw the straightest line I possibly can. And that, I did not do a good job. That is the horizontal, okay? So now it says she looks down at an angle of 57. So she's looking down at an angle of 57 degrees. And now you can see here, oh, look, we have a right angle triangle. So that's why the horizontal is so important, because it really gives us, now we have this 90 degree, which means we have a right angle triangle, which means we can use SOHCAHTOA or the primary trig ratios. Okay, so now, but the trick here is the first sentence. Okay, so this is where her eyes are, up here. And so we have her height is given as 1.65 meters. And then it talks about where Colton is. So Colton is down here getting eaten by sharks. But there's this little bit of extra distance. So once she's standing on a cliff, how tall is that? Well, that is 130. So that means that the distance over here from the horizontal to Colton, or point C, is 1.65 plus 130, which is 135 or 31.65 meters. Okay. And then we have, now someone's going to come rescue him. So Nadia then looks up. So now her angle of elevation is 46. And then again, so now you can see here we've got two right angle triangles. And to see Robert flying a rescue helicopter, so if you want to call that point R, he is directly above Colton, which is important to get that 90 degrees. But due to the weather conditions, he cannot lower the helicopter any further. Robert wants to help save Colton by sending down the 220 meter long rescue ladder he has on board. Will the ladder be long enough to save Colton? So that piece of information about the 220 meter long rescue ladder, that's really how the distance from Robert to Colton, that's how long it needs to be. That's how long the ladder is. So we're going to calculate how long it actually is. Okay. So, which means really we have the 131.65 from the horizontal to C, but we really need this part here from the horizontal to R, or Robert, or the helicopter. Okay, so that's really the piece that we are missing. Okay, so now in order to get that from the triangle, then we have the 46, we have an angle, but we have this side, this X side is opposite to 46, but then we would need the adjacent side, which we don't have, this adjacent here. Okay, so that's why these problems are going to be double triangle ones, because we have the opposite side to 57 here. We have the angle 57, which means we can solve for the adjacent side and then use that information to solve for X. Okay, so usually in these questions, you're actually going to have two answer statements, or two let statements, sorry. So I'm going to call this, I called the distance from horizontal to Robert, or the helicopter, X. If you use length instead of distance, I would not take marks off. And then I'm going to call the other one, the adjacent, I'm going to call that Y. Let's say you called the adjacent side, or the horizontal, really, X, then that's fine. That's why we do these let statements. So let Y be the length of the horizontal. You could even put let Y be the length of the adjacent side. Again, these let statements are just letting me know, and letting yourself know when you go to analyze your answer, that what's going on. Okay, so we're going to solve for, I think we have to solve for Y first. So we have, if you look at 57 here, then this is the opposite side, and we are solving for the adjacent side. So that means that we have, the angle, and here, let's write it out just like we did before. We have the angle and we have the opposite side, and we're looking for the adjacent side, which means we're going to use tan. Okay, so tan 57. The opposite side is 131.65. And the adjacent side is Y. Okay, so this is one of those tricky ones where we have to do a double step. So we need to multiply by Y, which makes them cancel over there. But not, we still have the Y next to tan 57. So we have to divide there again. So 131.65 divided by tan 57 is 85.5 meters. Okay, so now we can solve for X. Let me just change the color here. And if you want, go back to your picture and fill it in. So now we know this is 85.5. So now we have for 46, we have the opposite side, and we have the angle, and we're looking for the opposite side. We have the adjacent, and we have the angle. So again, we are doing TOA, or tan, in the other triangle. But this time the X is in the top. So that makes our math one step instead of two. So it's a little bit more straightforward. And we get 88.5. Okay, so now remember, we do want to answer the question. So part B says, is the ladder long enough to save the boy? So we need the ladder to be 220 meters. So we now know the distance from Robert to the horizontal is 88.5 meters. And then if we add that to 131.65, we will see if the ladder is long enough. Okay, so we have 88.5 meters and 131.65 meters equals 200.15 meters. So is our ladder long enough to save him? Nope, it is too short. So the ladder is only 220 and the distance is actually 220.15 meters. So unless, you know, he can reach up or something, he is not going to be saved. Okay. So, you know, as always, with any kind of word problem, just make sure that you are answering the question fully. Okay, so now on to our next example. The distance between two office towers is measured using an electronic tape measure and is as 73 meters from the top of the shorter tower to the top of the taller tower. Okay, so if you like to draw your diagram as you go, now you know we have a shorter tower and we have a taller tower. Okay, so draw, it doesn't really matter. Draw a tall tower, draw a short tower, and it says the distance between them is 73 meters. Okay, and it talks about the angle of elevation and the angle of depression. So remember, every time you have an angle of elevation or depression, those are always drawn from the horizontal. Okay, so, and again, because we want to make two triangles, then it makes sense. Oh, yes, okay, we need some sort of straight line to get that 90 degrees. Okay, so draw in the horizontal. So it says from the top of the shorter tower. So the top of the shorter tower is going to be where the horizontal goes. And then it says from the top of the shorter tower to the top of the taller tower. Okay, then that angle in there is 31. And then from the top of the shorter tower to the base or the bottom of the taller tower, the depression is 42. Okay, so then again, there you go. If you had a ruler and could draw a picture nicely, you would see two nice right angle triangles. The 73 meters sort of looks tricky, but the horizontal distance is 73 meters, right? It doesn't matter if it's measured on the ground in this case. Okay, so now we have our diagram. And we're going to find the height of the taller tower. Okay, so we've got two distances again. So it doesn't really matter which one we do first. You can call this distance X and this distance Y. And for the X description or the let statement, there's lots you could write. You could write the difference between the height of the taller tower and the shorter tower, or the height from the horizontal to the taller tower. It doesn't matter. Okay, and then again, this picture looks weird, but if you look at what Y is, this distance here, that's actually the height of the smaller tower. But again, you could write that like the distance from the horizontal to the to the ground. Same thing, okay? All right, so we're gonna solve for x first. So if you are a highlighter, we have x over here that I would say is the opposite to side angle 31. And we have this down here, this 73, which is adjacent to 31. It's very common that most of these word problems, unless it talks about like what is the length of the guide wire or something like that, normally these questions you're not solving for the hypotenuse. So you're often going to be using tan. So we have opposite, where we're looking for opposite, we have adjacent. Okay, so we're looking for adjacent, we're looking for opposite given adjacent, which means we're going to do tan again. So tan theta is opposite over adjacent. So x over 73. With the x in the top, makes our life a little bit easier. And then the same thing for y, except this time we're going to use 42 and y, which is opposite. But in this case, the horizontal is the same, just like the other one, so we're going to use this as our adjacent side for the 42. So you can short form it a little bit if you prefer, because we wrote this one out over there. I would accept that. If you like to write out everything every single time, that's no problem too. Okay, 67.5 meters. So again, make sure you answer the question. So we want to know the height of the taller tower. So the height of the taller tower, it's supposed to be there for, sorry. Is x plus y. So in order to get the answer, we have to do x plus y. So 43.9 meters plus 65.7 meters equals 109.6. So sometimes in the textbook, when you do the homework, they'll actually round to one decimal place. So they might write, or not one decimal place, a whole number, so they would round that to 110. So if you're pretty close, then I wouldn't stress too much about your answer. Okay, so please take a look at the homework. I starred this one because it's a little bit different. So 1 and 2, the diagram's already given for you. Those aren't actually word problems. So they're just sort of a build-up, and then the rest of the questions are actual word problems. So again, if you forgot your textbook or you do a Tang, look in the submodule for this day and the textbook page.